Welcome to the Red, White, and Reason, the podcast where American values meet critical thinking. Each week, we break down today's most pressuring issues with sharp debate, evidence-based analysis, and commitment to honest, rational discourse. From politics and policy to cultural trends and tough conversations, we look beyond the sound bites and dig deep into what really matters for our nation's future. Whether left, right, or somewhere in between, if you believe in facts, freedom, and civil debate, this is your home for ideas that matter. Tune in, challenging assumptions, and join the conversation. On the panel today, we have the Hoff, we have the Only Brant, Versatile, and myself, Big Jimmy. And today we'll be discussing the UN summit, Tylenol links to autism, and the DC crime bill, and more.
So I guess we should just start off with everyone's pressing thing that the liberals are just downing is Tylenol. Those pregnant women just saying that they don't believe Trump, therefore they're going to just down Tylenol.
Which is a crazy trend if you think about it. Even if you put the autism claim aside, you have to look at things like they could affect these women in their pregnancy. Like women are already going to have a lot of issues with pregnancy. Your body is taking up so much energy to basically help grow that fetus, and now you're going to try to put things like liver failure on your butt. It's just crazy to me.
Yeah, and we've already had Tylenol a few times tweet out that they don't recommend any of their products for pregnant women. Like one woman was pregnant and they offered her coupons for her baby to have Tylenol at a later age, but not for her right now to use Tylenol while she was pregnant.
I mean, I've always been against the people that want to remove warning labels. I think warning labels are needed. Starting to see where they come from is kind of the point here. I mean, doesn't it say on the bottle, not recommended for use for a pregnant lady unless you consult a doctor?
Yes.
Why would you? And I'm not pregnant. I'm not going to down a bottle of Tylenol.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see more into a study. I know Sweden did a study, but in their study, they didn't show any real controls with the dosage, the timing, the amount. Like they didn't have anything.
It wasn't just that. If you break down the JMA study, they did a bunch of self-reported claims. So the woman, they don't know that the woman took the proper dosage. The actual reporting was inconsistent. The woman wasn't told to report what trimester she was in, so they don't break it out. What they did was they took the total amount taken and distributed it equally among trimesters. So we don't know how much was taken in the first trimester versus the second versus the third. It doesn't actually break that down in the study. There's a lot of inconsistencies with the studies. In fact, I brought this up on X with somebody, and let me see if I can pull that post real quick, because I actually laid it out like in an argument, because the people have been so crazy with it that I'm just like, you guys have to look at what you are actually talking about, because you're just parroting things you get from the mainstream. And here's what I put, because the guy literally said, he pointed out the study from Sweden from 1995 to 2019 that found there was no connection. And I literally asked him, I said, what were the controls of the Swedish studies? Where did they lack? Perhaps misclassification of exposure due to relying mainly on prescribed doses of medication rather than the fact of taking into account that Tylenol is sold over the counter. So it's not a completely reliable sense, because not all women who are taking Tylenol have it based on prescriptions. I also pointed out the limited ability to adjust for time varying, and did they capture all the maternal infections, nutrition, and environmental exposures. They literally ignored other contributing factors in this study. And then I asked if they had the overusing of a carryover bias, because each pregnancy can be unique, especially in genetic code and autoimmune response. So what affects one sibling may affect like another one isn't going to be the same, because each fetus has its own genetic overlay, and the carrying environment could be different as well, because we don't know whether or not there was epigenetic changes, intrauterine environment changes in like the actual maternal habits of the mother. I also brought up the subsets of families being fully represented for multiple children. I brought up the idea of selection bias. I brought up already the lack of trimester specific tracking, timing, and dosaging. So I put that in there as well. And then I asked if there was any statistical issues. Was there multi-testing? What were their actual confidence intervals? Because I couldn't find their confidence intervals anywhere in the actual study whenever I read through it. I said there's so many comparisons that they should have done. There's a possibility that they had a bunch of false positives, or they even had spurious associations in it. And that's my breakdown of the study. Like, I read through the whole fucking thing. So
Yeah. And I don't blindly believe everything Trump's going to say or even RFK Jr., but I'm certainly not going to say that this sounds asinine and someone should just down Tylenol because of it. There's a story, and granted, I want to see a news article that proves this story, but I've even touted it out saying that there's supposedly a pregnant woman that now is dealing with potential liver failure or something, where she was in the hospital and wasn't going to make it.
I just want to point out, too, though, what Trump actually said and what the doctor said during that briefing, what RFK said during that briefing. They did not say that it inherently was the only thing that caused autism, like everyone claimed. Because, you see a lot of people who are bringing up, Tylenol didn't become a brand until 1955, and the first autism symptom was like 1943. First off, there's a whole list of reasons. We can go into the breakdown of where they collapsed things from the DSM-3 into the DSM-4 and then into the DSM-5 to where they made tiers of autism made up of a multitude of other actual, like, disorders. But Tylenol as a brand means nothing whenever we're just looking at acetaminophen as a whole, which was first synthesized in 1878. So it's just asinine. But I also want to point out that nowhere in there did they say that they had a direct causal approach. They said the studies have shown, and it wasn't a ban, it was a warning. Like, you should be advised on this because we're seeing an increased rate of women who take Tylenol with an increased rate of autism. We need, and the studies all say we need further studies to figure out causation. But in the meantime, it doesn't hurt anybody to warn them that, hey, we're seeing a correlation factor here, and we want you to be advised on it.
It's just anything the Trump administration comes out with, anything that entire administration comes out with will just get taken out of proportion. But no, that's exactly that. It's an advisory. If you want to if you want to take Tylenol while you're pregnant, go ahead. I mean, the chances are more than likely that your child will not end up autistic because of Tylenol than they are likely that they could. But the chances could be increased. That's all they're saying, and I don't get why that's such a giant issue. I mean, I do get why. It's just because Orange Man's administration said so, but it's still just. That's just the only reason.
Jimmy, what's your thoughts?
I think that when a company like Tylenol and comes out and tweets, just like how they said that we don't recommend it, that should be heavily weighted in the situation. But the other factor that I think that should be heavily weighted is that Tylenol even admitted that they didn't even conduct their own studies, and that should be a major issue. Because if Tylenol is not conducting studies, then we don't really know truly the effects of what it's doing to the fetus at the time, and that's a huge issue because we
What?
need, go ahead.
And you're driving the nail home right there, because that's literally the hypocrisy that I pointed out from the left, is because they're the ones calling out pharma for the blatant overreach, not enough safety tests, paying to get their stuff through the FDA, and never doing the actual safety tests, and basically like calling for some of these lawsuits against some of these pharmaceutical industries. But the second Trump says that there's someone bad in pharma, they're like, oh, no. Can't say that.
Yeah. That's the thing, because they're even questioning the C-19 vaccine and trying to say some of those might have issues. And again, they're like, no, it's all perfectly safe. Okay. Can you show me? Can you show me all of their studies compared to previous vaccines that went through a myriad of studies and trials?
Well, we saw whenever the fucking mandates first came out, even under the Biden administration, they pulled the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. I'm pretty sure they pulled the AstraZeneca one as well, did they not?
Yeah, I believe so.
I'd like to admit, as somebody that had the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, I would have rather catched COVID more times than I would have taken the Johnson & Johnson, because it made me feel like I had to sit in my room for 3 days with the lights off because I had the worst migraine. and the
Dude.
side effects were the worst.
So, as someone who worked on the actual COVID response, doing a lot of the military coordination for the COVID testing centers and stuff, I cannot tell you how many times I tested positive and then got sent home. Always asymptomatic. But the second I got the fucking Moderna vaccine to stay in the military because I was coming up on my retirement, I cannot tell you how fucking sick I was. I laid on the floor of my shower with the water turned as hot as it could, and I still sat there with body chills, shivering, just on the floor.
No,
Wow.
not me. I had it one time. I knew I had it because I like coffee and I couldn't smell the coffee. I couldn't taste it. Then I confirmed because I don't like the smell of vinegar. So I opened the bottle of vinegar, and when I couldn't smell it, I'm like, crap, I have it. The wife and kids had it, so I knew it was only a matter of time. But I was fatigued. I couldn't smell, couldn't taste.
For
Everything
me,
else.
I had it once, and I mean, it knocked me on my ass. I didn't really. I mean, it was at the beginning of COVID, and I felt like shit for like 2, 3 days. Started feeling better. Tried to go to the gym, and the biggest thing for me was I couldn't breathe. Like just the fatigue aspect of it. Because I tried going to the gym, playing a couple games up and down the court, and I had to stop. I was like about to pass out. I was like, "Fuck, not good. Not as good as I thought I was." And then I don't know if that just knocked me out for another 2 days or what, but had like another 2 shitty days, and then it was gone. Never had it again.
But listen, this isn't to say that COVID never negatively impacted
I never got the
people.
vaccine, though.
Yeah.
I was never
So-
mandated to. I mean, when I moved up to Connecticut, they wanted to require it, but like nobody ever verified. So I mean,
I'm
Just-
not gonna feed into some of these conspiracies that say
Conspiracies,
that COVID was a made up thing. Like I literally lost my dad last year to complications from COVID, but let's face it, he had stage 4 cancer. It's just what finished him off while he was going through chemo. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say that COVID didn't have negative impacts on people.
Oh, it did.
What I'm gonna say is that I believe that a lot of it was spun out of proportion. Not to say that it wasn't like a serious thing that needed to be tackled. We needed to study it. We needed to be as cautious as possible with it. But whenever we still have people to this day, like I just saw earlier, a woman calling that people need to be remasked again because we're still under an epidemic, and I'm like,
No.
I don't know what we have so many therapies that have been developed under this. We have vaccines, whether you like them or not. You can go get them. They are tracked to reduce symptoms. It's just a matter of whether or not the symptoms are bad enough for your age group and your own choice of whether you want to go do it.
If you're older or you have some lingering health issues where you're susceptible to stuff.
Yeah, if you're older, if you have a chronic disease, if you're fat as shit, go get one. But
Yeah, like, because I mean, my grandfather, he contracted it when he went to Vegas, and he succumbed to it. By the time he got home, he succumbed to it, and he didn't make it. It was in 2021 at the very end.
mm-hmm.
if you guys haven't already, best
happened.
butter on the market, creamy.
But
Peter Pan.
yeah, but I mean, we know the left. Anything Trump says, like the UN speech, they didn't like the UN speech. He didn't even have a teleprompter for some of the UN speech.
I mean, to me, I just get tired of talking about some of it. It's just like the left isn't gonna like anything that Trump says or does.
Honestly, though, whenever it comes to unteleprompted Trump, that's usually my favorite. That's usually my favorite Trump because, listen, he says some off the wall shit. I criticize him for some of the off the wall shit he says, but holy shit, do I always get a good laugh whenever he doesn't have a pre-planned speech and he's just going off the cuff, because I find it fucking funny. That's literally what it is.
I love when he attacks the women that attack him. It's like, look, he's just dishing it out and they can't take it. Like I've always said, what's the difference between 3 dicks and a joke? The fact that these liberal women can't take a joke.
Well, did you see
ridiculous.
Talking with what is it? The Turkish is it their president, prime minister? What is Turkey called there?
It's
Or head of state.
It's still they still have a prime minister. They have a parliamentary.
Yeah.
system.
So it's prime minister. Either way, was talking to the Turkish prime minister, and he was like, Somebody asked him a question about rigged elections, and he said this guy would know about rigged elections. Just in the middle of the Oval Office.
Well, let's face it,
It's comedy to have Trump
it
on.
doesn't matter what he would have said, whether it was a scripted speech, off the cuff speech. The left would still have the same talking points. They'd still be saying that he's embodying authoritarianism. They would still say that he's making America a joke. They would still say that he's isolating allies and he's weakening our alliances with international cooperation. But at the end of the day, we have to look at what he's trying to fucking point out. He's pointing out the fact that globalism has failed. This idea that we can just mass move people with conflicting ideologies around the world, especially into Western countries, it's not fucking working. They're not integrating, they're not assimilating. It's causing rifts within our society. And if we talk about the actual freeloader concept, which I bring up all the time because domestically and internationally, you can only be as generous as what your generous class can be. You cannot continually have people soaking up different types of financial gain at the loss to the people actually giving them that financial gain through their output. You have to have more input than you have output. So whenever you have a bunch of output going to social services beyond the input of what people are paying in taxes, you're doomed to eventually fail. And that's what I'm saying. That's what he was addressing whenever he was talking about the allies are freeloading off of U.S. security, where we literally have for the longest, for decades, have built the brunt of all security. And you can say that that's what led us to a global empire. Personally, what fucking led us to a global empire is the fact that on things like the Suez Canal crisis, we refused to get involved. World War II, we refused to get involved until we had to get involved. Because let's face it, Britain, France, Germany, Russia, all running themselves into holes, constantly being in war. If you look across European history, from the fucking 1500s through the 1900s, constant war. Like, I can look at the fucking, you can move to the idea of, you can go, even if we look past the American Revolution, the French Revolution, then you go into Napoleon expanding across Europe, collapsing the Holy Roman Empire. We move into the Prussian-Austrian War. We have other conflicts going on. You move into the Franco-Prussian War. Then you move into the establishment of Germany. You end up entering World War I. You have slight bits of peace, and you end up entering World War II. Then we have the fucking Vietnam War, the Suez Canal crisis. Well, not Vietnam, Korean War, Suez Canal crisis, Vietnam, Cambodia, Bolivia, like the Iran-Contra. There's so many fucking conflicts that we have constantly ended up having to, since World War II, we've constantly been trying to, we started off under Eisenhower, we started stepping back, we rose to the actual main superpower against the USSR, and then we kind of picked and choose which ones we wanted to get involved with. But Europe was still constantly at war while they were supposed to be rebuilding. They weren't even paying back the loans that we gave them during World War I and World War II because they were supposed to be rebuilding. So, yeah, they're a bunch of freeloaders. Yeah. They can go get fucked.
But I do like that he called out Russia. He said, Ukraine is now in position to fight and win back its original borders, that Russia is a paper tiger without the money that comes from China and India. He also called out NATO and said that if a Russian jet enters your airspace, shoot him down. And he said, yes, I do think NATO should do that. So he's calling on NATO to secure your damn borders and airspace, while also calling out China and India, because he says they are the primary funders of the ongoing war because they continue to purchase Russian oil. But he's like, look, I'm not going to excuse NATO either, because NATO, in all their bitchiness of complaining about the war, they still haven't cut off much of their Russian energy.
Yeah, I was going to say, Germany's still cashing in on Russian natural gas and oil. So NATO's literally funding the war from both sides. They're fucking giving loans to Ukraine so they can make money off of Ukraine, and they're giving money to Russia via Russia's imports into their country.
That's what I was going to bring up too, is that nobody talks about it enough. We fund both sides of the war, acting like there's a good guy and bad guy here that everybody's made a clear distinction about, especially NATO, the majority of NATO. But no, they fund both sides. I mean, if they really wanted to, Germany would stop cashing in. France would stop cashing in. So, like, but they talk a big game on national TV. Well, when they can get on American television.
Yeah. What up, Jimmy? You got to give your thoughts on this.
Um, yeah, I'm kind of on the board with you guys. I mean, the perpetuating about stopping the war, and same with Putin. You know, the emboldenment from the money from the Middle East. It's giving him the ideas that we can keep perpetuating this war, keep it moving, to increase their economies, because we all know war increases economy and benefits for countries.
Well,
Well,
yeah, and that's the other topic.
not
Look at
necessarily
what
countries,
Russia's
but
doing.
individuals in said countries. Yes.
Russia looks like they're backing China's play, and I've said it all along. China's just biding their time before they want to take over Taiwan, because at every instance anyone considered Taiwan its own like nation that they can be independent of China, China has been like hell no. I mean, John Cena had to issue an apology because he called Taiwan a country when trying to promote one of the Fast and Furious movies. They pander to China because they're the second largest market in movies. And it's just getting straight ridiculous that these communistic and dictatorship countries get pandered to and don't get held accountable for anything.
Well,
Same thing with the crime bill. Like you have DC where, Democrats in charge, they pandered and they were lessening the maximum offenses when it came to things like homicide and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, things like that. But now we have the Republicans saying that, hey, we shouldn't count the youth as up to 24 years old. There's people that are 18-year-olds that are committing gruesome murders that should really be held accountable in the strictest sense so we can actually deal with our crime and not have them go right back on the streets.
Yeah, this is
I'm
wild to me.
sorry. I'm not 24 yet, and I would hope that you hold me to the same standard as you would any adult if I were to commit a heinous crime. I mean, I'm a full-blown adult. What the fuck are we waiting till 24 years old to
Well, if
hold
we
people
look at
fully
it,
accountable?
whenever you think like elitist hypocrisy, I just want to point this out because it should be a no-brainer how this actually occurred, right? Washington, D.C. is the hub of all of our politicians, all of their immediate family, because their immediate family all seem to run NGOs in this in this realm. But whenever you think about the biggest perpetrators of crime, you're looking at the ages between 17 and 22. And in most states, 17-year-olds would be tried as an adult. But for some reason, conveniently, the district where our politicians' kids are, they're getting a smack on the hand because they're a minor. Like, they're getting a juvenile charge. That's fucking
Yeah.
stupid. And it just shows how they're protecting their own. That's my personal opinion on it. You can call it a conspiracy, but all of it lines up, in my opinion.
No, I mean it's the same reason. I see 17-year-olds getting, charged with stupid crimes. They get, the same punishments as any normal adult. Why are we no, it seems right. I mean,
I
It
just don't think
does.
if you're able to go buy a firearm at 18 years old that you shouldn't be held to the same standard as an adult. I mean,
yeah, let's
you're
talk about
able to
some
go out.
reform here. I mean, what do we need to take away things when you could just maybe hold people to the same
Well, my
accountability?
thing is, if you're old enough, you can go to war. You can fucking decide who the leader of your fucking country, your city, your state is going to be. You need to be held to a standard. If you're able to make adult decisions that affect everybody else, you should be held to an adult standard. That's my opinion.
Right? I mean, if you're gonna have any argument, maybe 21. But at 21 years old, you can do everything any adult can do on this earth. I mean, if any
I
argument,
I don't
21.
agree unless we're restricting the voting standards because I'm not
No, no,
giving.
I agree
Yeah.
with 18. I think at 18 you should be held fully accountable. I'm just saying if there's any argument, it shouldn't be 24. 24 is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I also find it funny that a city that's known for fucking people who are under the age of consent raised the age of consent to fucking be charged as an adult. Is fucking weird.
Yeah. The Democrats always get me. What's your thoughts, Jimmy?
I'm on board with you guys. I mean, it was just like I was saying, if you're able to go out and do the things that grown adults are allowed to do, at 18 or even at 21, like Versatile said, there should be that standard. There should be no excuses that you're able to go out and drink or be able to, buy Powerball tickets or buy guns or anything like that and not be held to a certain level of standard in the judicial system when as you shown before, the 17 to 21 range is where you're most likely to commit your atrocities because you're immature. You're immature in the mind to think that that's not going to happen. And setting it at 24 puts it at another precedent that, oh, I can get away with it between these ages and I won't be held accountable for it.
But I do think, I mean, to add on to your point, I do think you are mature enough to not commit a heinous act and not be held to the same standard. For example, like what you're saying, I could, well, I'm trying to think of something serious enough, like a DUI homicide. Let's say somebody, like had their friend in the car,
Unintentional manslaughter.
ended up getting killed in the car. This guy, he didn't want to do that. 21-year-old. That's what you would call an immature, young,
Well, that's
serious decision. But I definitely think you're old enough to.
Well, I think that you could be
an
adult,
purposely or like Tyler Robinson, plan to commit a crime.
Well, see, here's why we have, and this is where it comes into statutes, right? So the judge has a lot of leniency with statute, especially whenever you talk about because obviously we have minimum maximum sentences, right? And so those give you a range to kind of level those gray areas. Like if you have a 21-year-old kid, you know what I mean? Like he fucked up. Like I'm not going to say what he did. Like if in this case, you know what I mean? When we're talking about unintentional manslaughter, vehicular manslaughter from DUI. That is a serious crime. He should be charged. Do I think that it should fucking destroy him the rest of his life? Perhaps not. And that depends on, to me, and this is me like being in and out of like legal settings, watching this play out. A lot of the times it comes down to, does this kid even show remorse? Is he fucking torn up over it? Is the fact that he did it eating him alive more than the fact that he's going to be charged for it? You know what I mean? Those are some of those circumstances that I look at whenever I talk about can somebody be rehabilitated after this incident? So
yeah, I mean, a former teammate of mine like grew up playing sports with this kid. Like it happened to him. It was more of not something I just made up out of my ass. But yeah, no, that's exactly what I mean. Is if it's gonna eat them alive and kind of the situation alone. I mean, not a lesson you want to learn, but you're gonna learn it as opposed to just a heinous psychopath.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be straight up with you guys. There's a lot of burden you carry, especially like even if you don't completely kill somebody. Like if you just happen to maim them, it is something that follows you the rest of your life. I've literally watched people who are like the utmost character after going to war and having to see some of this stuff, and they are just so fucking torn up. Like that, and here's the thing: sometimes it's not even because they had to kill somebody. Sometimes it's because they watched somebody else die and they believe it should have been them. Like it's the whole phenomenon of survivor's guilt. Watching the concept of death or being involved in the concept of death is not easy. And if I remember right, Jimmy, you just had a recent experience with this, right? Yes. Was it yesterday?
Yeah, I did. Yesterday I was behind a car in an intersection and I watched a truck plow through a red light and revved his engine at least 60 to 70 miles an hour and hit a Subaru and flipped her car 3 times. And me being that close to it, it changes you because you could even tell like Brant when I was in my Discord, you could hear it in my voice that it shook me because if that was me in that car in front of it and I had gone, that could have been me. And it changes your perspective on everything because you really open your eyes to what could come. It can happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a scary concept. I'm not going to pretend it's not. But
yeah.
So, but whenever it comes to death, and here we can segue kind of into the bonus story.
Well, I was gonna say first about Candace Owens needs to show her claims on the Charlie Kirk. Oh, okay, yeah.
I wanted to segue into the Mossad midget. Let's talk about the Mossad midget, please, because let's face it, Candace Owens is a fucking joke.
Candace, if you by any chance see this on some miracle whim, I want to be the one to tell you you're a fucking idiot. You are getting dog walked by everybody who calls you out. Even Nick Fuentes, who is, I consider, of subpar IQ and absolutely no credibility, has called you out and made a perfect argument against why you are fucking dumb.
The big three are Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and Alex Jones. They're not on any network anymore. They're not getting paid by like the Daily Wire, Fox News, or anything of the sort. So their main thing is to drum up some kind of clickbaity thing that will get you to watch them because they need that ad revenue. That's what pays them now.
Yeah,
and that's what they're doing.
They're just fucking rage bait.
Yeah,
like, I don't know if you guys have seen Alex Jones' new mustache.
Yes, I have, and it's terrible.
So, I don't watch them all long enough to see it.
It's
like
on
if
X.
some, yeah. See, I wouldn't even know that because I never seen it.
He literally did this. He literally did this.
Hey, though.
Because it's fucking rage bait. It's fucking. This is what they do. It's rage bait. It's idiotic rage bait.
Lord, it is.
I haven't seen that. I'll say that. I was gonna just. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
this is how far it's come. It's come.
I do want to ask.
Circle.
I'm gonna be like a little bit of a contrarian. Not really a contrarian. I just want to ask a question. Why are they having Tucker do? Isn't Tucker doing one of the events? One of the college speaking events.
So, I think this comes down to the concept where, Charlie Kirk said that he could disagree with people at the end of the day, and still have a good discussion with him. They can have policy overlap, and even though they disagreed on the Israel topic, that he still agreed with them on 99% of other things. You know what I mean? So here's the thing. I personally think that they should be deplatformed for their fucking inherent lies. It's already been proven that, like, Tucker Carlson accepted money from the Qatari government. We have the actual FARA records for it. Whenever he did the fucking interview with the leader of Qatar, him and Candace have not shown any evidence to make their Charlie Kirk claims. I think that Turning Point should take a good, long, hard look at these people and tell them to kick dirt. That's my personal opinion. Whether or not they do it based on principle, because honestly, if I'm thinking about it, Erica Kirk probably doesn't want to deal with them constantly trying to attack her in this moment. So she's probably just trying to keep the peace in the moment. So, and she's probably like, people who are on one side of the fence to the other they're already set in their mind. There's no, like, I literally had to discuss the Talmud yesterday for an hour. And the guy literally called me a liar based on a reference that he made to this, which I have the actual. This is one of their key pieces of evidence that they use in their arguments. Do you see this fucking this reference to an email? Do you see this email? Does this look like a professional email to you by Mr. Robert Bowers at onedingo.com? You can read it and you'd be like, this is from someone great. But if you go down to his references, if you go down, this is from a lawsuit where they tried to lob like the Israeli religious supremacy, and this is where they try to say that the Talmud is canonical law. They try to use this as references from the Talmud. The problem is, if you go to these references, they don't fucking exist. Some of these don't exist, or some of them don't say what they're saying. Or
is that an attachment or link that someone was phishing, trying to steal their information?
No. This is probably, but this is actually this is from a Pennsylvania. This is the Pennsylvania Western District. It was logged in the courts of the Pennsylvania Western District. That's where I have it pulled.
Okay,
from.
like the Democrats of PA are just dipshits.
You guys can find this actual file name here. This file is associated with our U.S. court. Somebody actually filed this in court, and I'm like, this was the guy's proof to argue with me about it. But
was it the mayor of PA who couldn't even spell Eagles when given the Eagles chant?
Yeah, you talking about the Philly mayor?
Yeah, the mayor of Philadelphia. She couldn't spell it, and it's like, what the hell? Like, you're the mayor. Your team is in the Super Bowl. They eventually won, and she couldn't spell it. Then she like had another issue again, trying to do the freaking speech at the end when they won.
Let me point out this part. You guys do not have to agree with the government of Israel. There's nothing that says you have to agree with the government of Israel. The problem I have with this movement is the low IQ anti-Semitism, where these people have, you know, how many times have we had a conversation, Hoff, with somebody where they'll come in, they'll discuss things with us, and they'll reference the Zionists, but then it eventually goes into a topic about you people, and then they finally start saying stuff like Hitler was right and the Jews have no place in society.
Well,
they start with the Zionists, they end with the Jews. We know where they're going to.
I think
they believe you control the World Bank.
With one of them one night, I was
between
like
3 and 4 p.m.
I think I more than anyone else on here, I'll dabble in a little bit of conspiracy, right? Or I'll just
Let me
look into things, or just some things I don't like.
There we go, just to fix it.
I had a conversation with one of them one night. I was like, if you want, quote unquote, Israel out of American politics, and whatever pocket you think they're in, and whatever pocket you can prove they're in, whatever, you look like shit. You make everybody look terrible. Even maybe anybody who could be right, when you start spouting out this bullshit that Israel's the problem with everything on the planet Earth. I mean, you sound crazy. Not you sound crazy, you are crazy, and you make anyone else who is saying anything legitimate sound just as crazy because now they look like you. So when the 80% are all anti-Semites stouting Hitler's right, and the 20% or whatever are like, okay, like, I don't like how Ted Cruz is saying I'm here to defend Israel, and that's my job in American politics. 20% are just saying they don't like that. Right? But now they sound crazy because they're looped in with the 80% that are like, fucking Israel's running everything.
The problem is the 20%, the 20% they're not ostracizing that 80% of these anti-Semitic trolls. They're trying to.
Well, no, they try to spin it as no, you guys are just calling them anti-Semitic because they're anti-Israel. Well, I think the 20% is smaller than 20%. I'm including myself in the 20%, and I think a lot of us do just ostracize the people. I'm not including like anyone else we've really talked about in that 20%. They're more included in the 80%. I'm more talking about just regular people. You don't really see talk about these issues too much.
But can we just discuss the idea that a Mossad midget popped up out of a hatch and shot Charlie Kirk in a moment of symbolism in the throat, because the symbolism is they were taking away his voice? Can we just address how fucking stupid that is just for a second? Like, can we all just have a round of applause for the stupidity, please? Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you. So
there's
fucking
stupid rage baiters that don't have many talking points all the time to actually get some kind of ad revenue and stuff in. So they got to do this on other platforms to get their money.
Go ahead. Here's my issue with it is that there's 2 points I'd like to make with Candace Owens to go back, kind of tie this into it. I don't understand that Charlie wasn't even 6 feet under yet, right? He wasn't even buried. And she's going out spouting claims within 24 to 48 hours about this had happened. This was the shooter. It was the Mossad midget in the trap door. And he's not even resting in peace yet. And you're so-called his best friend, right? You could make the claim 24 hours after it happened. I find it highly disrespectful, disingenuous. Candace Owens needs to have her platform taken, because I don't also agree with, when you're talking about release the facts and the receipts, that she is pouting to pay the $5.99 to subscribe to her channel, to where she gets to a point where she will release that information. I find it very disrespectful and disingenuous to this whole situation. And even if she's not calling for, celebrating it and stuff like that, there's still the other side where there needs to be some accountability for the disrespect she's shown.
Such good friends, but good friends would follow each other. They weren't following each other on their social media platforms that they regularly use. And then right after it happened, she then followed Erica Kirk.
Well, that was debunked. She never went and followed Erica Kirk, or maybe she did, but not following Charlie thing, they had never followed each other, and that was debunked with a Twitter post
Yeah,
between
but either
her
way, like if you're that
and
good of
somebody else
friends, you
back
would
in May
follow
of
each other's
last
social
year.
media.
But
Well,
I don't know.
if you're that good of friends, you would show up to the memorial, but then she claimed that the FBI was after her.
Yeah, so many claims without enough evidence. Like even Netanyahu needs to showcase this letter that he got from Charlie Kirk. Like all these people just need to give us the evidence.
So,
Well, that's kind of the thing. But the I don't know what's the midget Mossad and the trap door thing. The only thing I've heard her say about the quote unquote trap door was that they had paved some fucking thingy. But what's the Mossad midget thing?
I'd
So-
love to say it was a joke about her brain being trapped.
so
She can't use it.
The Mossad
I
midget
thought you
is-
were actually like referring to like.
So she claimed that there's a hollow portion underneath the stage in which Charlie Kirk was sitting on, and her new conspiracy theory claim is that somebody popped up out of that, shot him, and then popped back down. The problem with this space is it's an electrical conduit run. There is not enough space for a full-grown person. The only person who could fit down there would be a midget or a small child. They would also he would also not be able to get out of there. It would be swarmed with military. And then she's saying that they tried to pave over it to hide the fact that that's where it happened from.
I don't know. The only
Yeah,
thing I could see a
But
trap
while we're on the
Trap door that only a midget could be fitting in could be like maybe somebody dipped a weapon or whatever.
Listen,
I don't know, but like I don't know. It's not a midget. I can tell you that.
but I got it off my chest that Candace Owens is an idiot. But while we're on
Yes.
the Israel subject, can we talk about the hysterical fact that the flotilla going to Gaza or Raza? Can we talk about how the Arabs that were part of the leadership on it are now getting off their ships or turning their boats around because they found out one person on the flotilla is gay?
Wow.
Which completely destroys the Queers for Palestine movement.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you guys hear about this?
Yeah, I don't know. I've always said I don't know what the Democrats stand for nowadays. Like with standing for Palestine, which would be against them if they were gay, if they were, trans or anything of the sort. Standing for Jimmy Kimmel when he did blackface. He had the Man Show with all that questionable filming that they did, being misogynistic to women and stuff, having women touch all over him to try to find some object he put in his pants.
Just
Well,
so
what
everyone
they
sees
want
it.
to do is stand for humanity, and some of the good people just want to stand for humanity. But even some of those good people are still too ignorant to use the device that they hold in their hand 8.5 hours a day.
Yeah,
to just do a Google search.
Yeah, and like there was Greta Thunberg. They prop her up, and it's like
for sure.
she
Well,
she hollers about
she
her
was-
youth being taken away.
She was torn about whether or not to quit over it, but then she's like, "Well, we need the movement still," so she stayed. But they basically have the woke on woke fury brings chaos to their flotilla.
But like, what do you expect to happen? What if you get into Gaza? Like, there's journalists that went to Gaza and they go to these areas, and next thing you know, you're just finding their equipment left over because they're no longer alive. It's a war-torn area that's still getting bombarded. Even the UK said it's not a genocide, but it is definitely war, and there's been questionable things from Israel, but it's not a genocide. But I wouldn't go there. You couldn't pay me any kind of money to go there.
I'll go there right now.
No, I am good. I can't carry a fighting load. So my time of army is done.
I can dump a load.
I mean, yes, I give a Biden like daily. A Biden comes out of me, but that's here nor there.
A Biden.
And I love
crazy.
Yeah, I know it. I love the trolling of the auto pen. Now, I personally think that before he leaves office, it should be Joe Biden's picture up there. But let's let the auto pen trolling photos stand for now.
But before we wrap this up, can we just take a moment? Can we take one moment? And can we appreciate the fact that Versatile decided not to have a heavy-ass frame jersey behind him this time?
Yeah, Tom Brady jersey did not smack you on the head.
Yeah, somebody won the Brady.
Yep.
Hopefully he never sees that podcast episode because he'll see that his frame jersey fell on my head. But
Now,
it'll be
to end it, let's talk about this continuing resolution. Two of us are military. Do you think that the continuing resolution will pass, or are we going to see that military will have to get their separate bill and the government will shut down?
Are you talking about for the National Defense Authorization for the
Yeah.
year? Didn't they do a continuance on that last year to make it good for 2 years? Or is that the year before?
I don't remember. I know we've had it in the past, so military would always get their money, but we there's threats of not passing even a continuing resolution because they were trying to make it till December so they could hash out more. And the biggest thing the Democrats want is they just want healthcare for everybody. They're like, hey, you could be a lazy motherfucker sitting at home, you get healthcare. You could be an illegal immigrant. Yeah, we still want them to have healthcare. It's like
Biden took 25 million of these motherfuckers off of Medicaid, and I didn't hear a word. Shut up. Like, that's
I know
cool.
California's in a deficit, and they were touting out they couldn't afford to give illegal aliens their health care anymore for Medi-Cal. Like, why are we trying to do it at the federal level when we have an even massive bill, like debt that we have to pay?
But honestly, you have a lot of different unions, and I'm just going to point this out. You have a lot of different unions which are heavily supporting of Democrats, right? You have a lot of different unions coming out telling Democrats, like, you need to just go ahead and pass this continuing resolution. We cannot afford for the government shutdown because then we will not be paid for contracts. And while, you know, federal employees are still forced to work, they don't, like, whenever I was furloughed in 2013, I had to show up to work. I was a critical asset employee because I dealt with actual monetary stuff, which is crazy that I was a critical asset whenever I'm a monetary asset and I'm not allowed to spend anything in the government shutdown. But I had to show up. I had to show up because of my position was associated with the DOD. So I didn't get a choice. So I went weeks without pay. I mean, I ended up getting a lump. I did learn, though, and this goes out to every federal employee out there, if you ever fear a furlough, go ahead and schedule your annual leave for October 1 every year. Because here's the thing. That money for your annual leave is already set aside. If they don't end up furloughing, you can cancel your leave. But if you think that you can't make it through that period without pay, you will still get paid. And the best part about it is, if you've already scheduled it, they'll give you the pay. But whenever the furlough ends, you will get all of your leave days back.
Yeah.
Little fun fact.
I also got to throw shade at both sides. Why is it every year that they continuously only talk about the budget when it comes into September? Why can't we be discussing the budget over the summer and hash it out so the end of summer you have a budget that is passed?
If you notice, they always recess too for like most of September. Like they do something like the first week or the week and a half, and then they leave until like 5 days before the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah, and there's a myriad of those conspiracy theories on the recessing of your favorite topic, but also the recessing because, you know, Congress seems to need more vacations and they want to actually spend time in office doing stuff for us, even though they get paid like double the salary of a regular two-person household income would be. Like,
It's kind of my issue with it. We vote them in to go to work for the American people, but it seems like they run off the American dollar to go take their vacations.
If I got to take this call, I'll be back. Y'all just keep going.
yeah, I know. And like
Put that there.
the Democrats are even going to get that lovely conspiracy that they love to tout out, because as soon as they come back, Mike Johnson's apparently said that the new representative female that replaced her daddy who succumbed to cancer, she's going to be sworn in, and that's more than likely going to be the final vote they need. And I mean, I said it, like, throw him in the wood chipper if Trump's in it, but being we have no evidence, I fully think he's just going to laugh his ass off sitting at the Resolute desk when all the files come out and he's not in it, but then they point fingers at Clinton or Bill Gates or any one of the sort
Prince
that
Andrews.
have, Prince Andrews, like anyone that has a larger connection of going to the island and definitely doing something where Prince Andrews had to do the payout.
I will say that Elon Musk did finally speak out against them trying to label him now. So
yeah, because they said he potentially went to the island, and he's like, no, I was offered and I declined.
yeah.
But that's what the left does. They can't stop with their lying propaganda. I already had to make videos on TikTok where I recorded debating Johnny Palmadessa, and he lied his ass off saying that Trump said something, and we only have a small clip where Trump says that smart people don't like me. But then we got clarification from Snopes finding out that he was quoting somebody else. Then he tried to make the claim that Ashley Biden's diary was manipulated, and that's not the letter that she wrote to the judge. That's all they can do now is lie about Trump and create propaganda narratives to save their Papa Jojo.
I think what's crazy about this, I think what's crazy about this situation is I think the left is trying to, they have a repeated history of trying to lock up their political opponents just off of the false narrative that, oh, they're implicated in this, they're implicated in that. I think it's a real show and a real tell of how disoriented the party has become since the days of JFK. I don't even know what the left stands for anymore. I really don't get it. And from somebody who was on the left, about 4 or 5 years ago, this has really opened my eyes up to this whole experience of just how brainwashed somebody can become because they sell it in a pretty package with a bow on it, and then they give it to the American people, and then they buy into it.
Yeah. Viewers, let me know. Can you tell me policies that are new policies that the Democrats are running on that isn't I hate Trump? Because we already know they don't want to codify Roe v. Wade. We know a lot of their old policies that they don't care about. And also, do you really think they're trying to bring the temperature down in all their rhetoric with all of this political violence happening? Because Harris just came out saying we got to fight fire with fire. So that doesn't sound like bringing the rhetoric down. I believe Jasmine Crockett already called Trump Hitler. Definitely not bringing the rhetoric down. So let us know in the comments below.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next time. And in the meantime, take it away, Mr. Andrew Gold.
Also, I'm going to put a link to everyone's social media down below on TikTok.